What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another battle video to do for you guys. This is going to be a comparison of the Boker Kalashnikov, in this case the AUS-8 version, and the Lightning OTF. If you've been watching my channel here this week, you'll know that I kind of did redemption videos for both of these knives. My original reviews of each of these were not super nice. I called the Lightning more of a novelty than a tool, and I said the Boker Kalashnikov wasn't made well enough because it had blade play and it would likely just get worse over time. And then I had multiple examples of the Lightning shown to me that had been used for years by my brother and dad and my friend Casey, and my sister has one as well. And they're all just fine. So I felt like, well, maybe I'm wrong about that since my brother uses it every day at work. And then my buddy Lon showed me his 13-year-old Boker Kalashnikov that's still functioning just fine. If you want to watch the redemption videos on each of these, they were just this week. You can easily go watch them. Crazy. So I thought, well, while I've got both of these in my possession, I should do a battle against with these two against each other. Given that they're very close to the same price point, very close to the same size, they're both automatics. They make prime candidates for anybody looking to make a purchase on a nice, budget-friendly, utilitarian automatic design. I know a lot of people would rather me pit the OTF against another OTF and the side opener against another side opener, but both of these kind of reign supreme right now in the budget world for each type. So I think they make they'll make for a good battle. I've got a lot of things to say about both of them. Before we get started here, number one, I apologize for the light. We have a thunderstorm rolling through Kansas this morning, so you might hear a couple rolls of thunder. The lighting I'm getting from a floodlight that is pointed up and away from the knives here and reflecting off the wall. That's why it looks different. Number two, with these both being automatic knives, make sure, if you are looking to purchase one of these after I conclude this video, make sure you check the laws in your local area as far as whether or not you can own or carry an automatic knife. If the answer is no to one or both, then this video might not mean a whole lot to you. Anyways, let's go ahead and get some measurements of each knife here. We'll go ahead and do the Kalashnikov first. Overall length of the Kalashnikov coming in at about 7.6 inches. Tip to scale length, we're looking at about 3.4 inches. Blade length on the cutting edge, we're looking at about 3 inches. On the Lightning OTF, we're looking at 8 inches overall. Tip to scale, you're looking at about 3.5 inches or 3.4 inches, depending on where you're measuring here, because there's a slant in that scale. The blade length is exactly 3 1/4. So you do have a longer blade on the Lightning. Let's go ahead and weigh both knives. We will weigh the Lightning first. 3.92 ounces. Weigh it again. 3.92 ounces. So that one's just shy of 4 ounces. Let's go ahead and weigh. I don't know why I moved the scale. Let's go ahead and weigh the Kalashnikov. 3.53 ounces. Flip it over and go again. 3.53 ounces. So a 0.4 ounce difference in weight. In my opinion, that is negligible. I'm not going to necessarily say the Kalashnikov wins in weight. 0.4 ounces is nothing. Both of these knives are a reasonable length for how much they weigh, and I'm going to call it a tie there. Not that I'm going to score everything as I go through, but just to be clear, nobody should be deciding a winner based on the weight there. If one weighed 8 ounces and one weighed 4 ounces, that's different, but 3.5 to 3.9 is negligible. Let's go over materials. On the Lightning, you have what everybody seems to be telling me is 440C on the blade. That's fine. It's stainless. Used to be king in its day. It is definitely not anymore. 440C is going to be stainless, and that's going to be pretty much it. It's not going to be really tough. It's not going to be very edge retentive. It probably will be easy to sharpen, and it looks like it holds up decently well. I have resharpened this knife for my brother multiple times, and he uses it a lot. The handle, scale, and actuator switch are aluminum. Of what grade, I have no idea. I really doubt it's 6061 T6. It has this odd cheap feeling about it. That's really all I have to say about that. The Boker Kalashnikov in its base form uses AUS-8 steel, which for the first time in my channel's history, I'm actually going to say that AUS-8 is better than the steel I'm comparing it to. AUS-8 is a better steel. It's going to be tougher. It's going to be more edge retentive. Probably equivalent in stain resistance, maybe a little bit less, but it's still definitely a stainless steel. It's just going to be a better working steel. The handle scales are aluminum, and I believe those are 6061 T6 aluminum scale, which is aircraft aluminum. And should be, I believe that grade of aluminum is specifically manufactured to have a good strength to weight ratio. So the materials as far as the handle and blade are probably slightly more premium than the Lightning at best. Let's talk about blade shapes. Both of these knives that you're seeing on the table have drop point blades, but they also come in Tanto. At least, yeah, actually, I think both of them have a Tanto variant. Both of them have partial serrations available. Both of them have black or satin blades. In the case of the Kalashnikov, you actually have crazy blade finishes. You've got like flat dark earth and all this stuff. They both have a lot of blade shapes. One advantage that I will give to the Lightning is that one of the blade shapes is an actual dagger ground blade, meaning you can have a blade sharpened on both sides because of the nature of how it deploys. I'm sure, some people are going to go look and say, wait, the Kalashnikov has a dagger ground blade. It's got a dagger style blade, but one of the edges is a false edge. If you think about it, there would be no way to put the blade back into the handle if you were to sharpen the spine of it. So it's a false edge and the main cutting edge is sharpened. The advantage to having a blade that is sharp on both sides is you can have one edge that you use all the time, and then as soon as that one goes totally dull, you can flip it over and use the other edge. It's kind of like having another pocket knife ready to go. The disadvantage is you're pulling so much material away from an already pretty thin blade, you end up, arguably you end up weakening the blade. So you might be sacrificing a little bit of toughness in the blade, but that all depends on what you're going to use your knife for. If you're just going to use it for simple cutting tasks, cardboard, rubber, rope, paper, toilet paper, whatever, then yeah, you're going to be totally fine. And exactly how much toughness you're sacrificing, I don't know. Both of these blades are pretty thin, like 0.11, 0.12, something like that. So in terms of blade shapes, I'd give a slight advantage to the Lightning. Your color options, this one here is the Lightning is red, and this was either black or gray originally. It's very worn down. This is a 13-year-old Boker Kalashnikov, by the way. You have just about every color you could possibly imagine. Different prints for both knives. You've got like skulls and flames and whatever. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff that you can get. Same way with the blades, like I said, lots of different color options. So as far as like getting the flavor you want, it's a tie between the two. You can definitely get what you want. Ergonomics, let's talk about ergonomics on the Lightning. This is just a brick. It's easy to hang on to. It's got kind of a lock-in position for your thumb. That's fine. The only problem is that because there's no real choil here, if you're doing more of a stabby task, where you're having to push the blade into something, you do run the risk of running your finger up on the blade, or if you're jamming the blade down into something, you risk running your palm or the inside of your fingers through the blade, which I unfortunately have seen happen, not on a Lightning, but on another knife, and it is ugly. That is not something you want to have happen to you or one of your friends or anything like that. That's an unfortunate. He was stabbing into a piece of wood, but I have seen that happen, and it is not cool. Now on the Kalashnikov, I don't necessarily like ergonomic designs that force your fingers into a specific spot on the knife, but it is definitely safer, and I will say it's very comfortable and has a nice lock-in position. This is a 7.5-inch knife that you can get your hands all the way around. It's very ergonomically friendly. There's no hot spots on it at all. There's no hot spots on either knife, but ergonomically, the Boker Kalashnikov just makes more sense. Now, let's talk about the pocket clips. These knives are both set up for right-handed tip down carry only. I don't know if they make left-handed versions of these knives. Let me make sure here. Yeah, you cannot mount the pocket clip on the other side of this Lightning. Now, at the time of this video, I'm pretty sure there's only one version of each knife. I could be wrong. Maybe in the future they'll make left-handed versions. Maybe they make left-handed versions right now. I don't know. But these are, at the time, they're definitely both tip down only. I hate how the pocket clip looks on the, I'm sorry, I said tip down. We'll turn it so you can see. Tip up carry only on both of them. I hate how the pocket clip looks on the Kalashnikov. In my original review, I said it looked like a piece of bacon. I don't understand why it looks like that. It's ultra deep carry. It loops around the top, just like the ZT-0562. So it carries mega deep for people who care about that. Functionally, it's just fine. The Lightning OTF is not a deep carry clip, but it hides enough of the knife to where it's reasonable. It has the divot down here that I like. Both of them do. This one's just full of divots. It also functions just fine for the knife. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as the screws are tightened down, it's fine. I will say this one has a tendency to loosen up, so I would Loctite those screws. That's just my opinion. This one does not seem to have moved at all. The gentleman who lent it to me, said he's never had to adjust any screws on that thing at all. I had to adjust the screws in Loctite, my brother's screws, once, and that was it, and they've been just fine. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know. There might be a slight advantage to the pocket clip on the Kalashnikov, but it's pretty much a tie. You know, I mean, both clips are fine. They do their jobs. They're not crazy. I mean, they clip the knife to your pants and they hold them in place. It's just fine. Let's talk about deployment on both knives. Of course, the Lightning is an OTF. Pull it back, it retracts in. Push it forward, it fires out. The Kalashnikov is a side opening automatic, which means it is manual in terms of retraction, but in terms of deployment, the spring is primed and fired. Now, with the Lightning, the spring is in a resting position whether it's closed or open. You actually create the tension on the spring by pushing up to fire the blade, and then you create additional tension pulling down. But in this position, or this position, the spring is at rest. The spring is only at rest in this knife when the blade is out. When it's in, you can actually feel it right here. You're putting tension on that spring, which means there's excess tension while that knife is just sitting idly and just being a folded or retracted blade. So there's advantages, excuse my phone, there's advantages and disadvantages for each knife. The advantage to an OTF, I'm going to use this example. I use it all the time. The one hand is busy while standing on a ladder example. In my opinion, there's probably no better knife in that scenario. If you've got another person that's dependent on you, you're holding something up, and you guys realize either you by yourself or you and the person who's helping you do whatever it is that you're doing, that there's something in the way. And you've dedicated a certain amount of strength to holding up some object. And you have to cut a strap or a rope or something that is in the way of this object. So you need a knife that you can deploy with one hand. There's probably no better knife than a dependable OTF to do that, because you can fire it, it's going to fire, make the cut, retract it, and put it away. You can also easily deploy this knife and make the cut, but then you have to make sure that you know exactly how to close it with one hand, or if you can't do that, you have to awkwardly push it against your pants and oh no, the knife dropped and fell on the ground or down a well or into a volcano or wherever it is that you're working. Hopefully you're not standing on a ladder holding up some heavy object on the rim of a volcano, but you get what I'm saying. It's an extra step. And for the most part, you're going to be just fine with either knife, but technically the convenience is going to go to the OTF. Also, because the spring is under tension on the Boker Kalashnikov, there might be an argument to be made that the spring could last longer in the Lightning because it's always at rest. However, I subscribe to the idea that the more moving parts there are, and the more complicated those parts are on any object, not just knives, any object, the less dependable that object is. There are definitely more moving parts on the Lightning, and they are definitely more complicated. Have you ever been on the inside of one of these? It's a spring and hooks and pins and two rail things, and the blade slides in it. There's a lot more moving parts in there. So logic would dictate that I would have to give longevity or the benefit of longevity or the likeliness of longevity to the Kalashnikov given how it works. Yes, the spring is under tension when it's closed. It's probably going to be in the closed position way more often than the open position. But this one in front of me lasted 13 years. I'm not saying the Lightning couldn't last 13 years. I'm just saying because it's got more parts, there are simply more opportunities for the lightning to fail. If you had 100 people, if you had 200 people, 100 of them had lightnings and 100 of them had Boker Kalashnikovs, and you had them pair up with each other. So you had 100 pairs. Each pair went out, one of them having a Kalashnikov, one of them having a lightning, to do the same task over and over and over again for a year, and then you had 100 different types of tasks like that, making it a controlled experiment. My guess is that you would have more Kalashnikovs that would come out okay in the end than lightnings, because there's more opportunity for failure. So I'm, in terms of like deployment and application, convenience will go to the lightning, definitely. But in terms of just like, longevity and all of that combined with convenience, I would say probably the Kalashnikov. Let's talk about the lock types. In this, it's pins essentially. As it moves up, the back of the blade hooks around and there's a pin that locks into place and holds the blade. It's fine. I've never actually seen the blade disengage from the locked out position. I've only seen it fail and come off the rails during deployment like this. So you either have to whip it back out, which is fine, or you just pull it like this, and then it works just fine. But in terms of like, whether or not it'll stay locked out in its open position, I'd imagine so. I'd imagine it's easier to disengage than the plunge lock that holds this guy together. We can probably not going to be able to see in there, but there's a plunge lock you can just barely see moving out of the way when I push the button. And then the larger part of that cylindrical lock slides into place underneath the blade tang. To me, it looks like there's more surface contact there. It looks like it would take more to get, in order for that to disengage, enough pressure would have to be put on the spine of the blade to push that button and the entire plunge lock back up and away from the tang of the blade. That seems way less likely than this just disengaging. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm going to assume that the plunge lock is probably a stronger locking system than the lock on the Lightning, definitely. And it's, in that sense, it's also just safer all the way around. In terms of disassembly and maintenance, the Boker Kalashnikov is open body, and it does not have a rail system. It's got less parts. This is straight up easier to clean and maintain and take apart than this. I have taken this apart to get a, my sister got a pebble or something that was rolling around in her purse. It got inside there and got in between the part of the actuator switch that like launches the blade, and then this pebble got lodged in there and it wouldn't deploy. So I took it apart, moved it out of the way, and it was fine. But 2 points there. It was more complicated. There were more parts. You're more likely to mess something up given all of those parts. And it's easier for debris to get inside of an OTF and mess it up, making it not, unable to be used at all. Whereas in the unlikely event that you get a piece of debris lodged inside here where that plunge lock engages the blade tang, it's probably going to be way easier to just stick something down in there and clean it out or blow it out or whatever. I also think it's just less likely in general. So in terms of, maintenance and cleaning and disassembly, far and away, it's the Boker Kalashnikov. Absolutely. Let's talk about, something I didn't mention. The other nice thing about the Kalashnikov, and I don't know if they all still have this. This old one does. I honestly can't remember if my cts-xhp model had it. This does have a safety switch, which I think is totally unnecessary in the open position. That I guess you might accidentally run your palm into that and disengage it. But for those of you who are worried about this button accidentally getting pushed inside your pocket and the knife deploying, which probably wouldn't be the case because you would have this up against the seam of your pants. So even if it did, the blade would deploy up against the closed seam of your pants, so it probably wouldn't go anywhere. But if you're worried about that, you do have the option to turn the safety on, making it impossible for the blade to deploy unless the safety is back off. The Lightning, you don't have that feature. However, I think it's very unlikely you're going to accidentally put enough force on that switch to deploy the blade in your pocket. And even still, if it did, it would give you a little poke, but it's not going to go through your leg. That's movie nonsense. Switchblades don't do that. So I don't know. I guess you could call that a Kalashnikov advantage, not anything specifically, a specifically large advantage. Let's talk about price. So the Lightning OTF, the least expensive I've ever seen it in the last year was about $30, and that was on eBay. So it's kind of a dice roll on eBay. On the official website, the Lightning website, $33.94, I think, $32 or $33.94, and then on Grindworks, which is where you're gonna find another big chunk of options, $34.95, I think is the price that you're gonna see. A little bit of thunder there. It's appropriate for the video that I'm doing here on the Lightning. Yeah, those are the prices that you're going to see. Now, you're going to see prices a little bit higher on models that I think that are like double-edged and are all black. They go up to like 45, sometimes even $50. But that's generally the range, between $30 and $50, all of your different models. But you only have one choice of steel, which is this base, hopefully 440C, probably with a mediocre heat treatment. Your Kalashnikovs, they run $39.95 at base, just AUS-8, plain Jane. I think the double-edged ones are about the same, maybe $42.99, a little bit more. You can bump up to cts-xhp steel on these. I think still right now at the time of this video, at least for 60 or $65, you're getting up there into a different price range. But that's amazing. That's the least expensive I've ever seen cts-xhp. That's really cool. And then if you really want Damascus or whatever that is, you can pay a little bit more. I don't know that that's necessary. But your prices as far as like the regular versions of these that actually have utilitarian applications, Boker Kalashnikov is between $40 and $65. So it's a little tiny bit more expensive. I think we have pretty much covered everything except for my conclusion here. You guys can probably guess what my conclusion is going to be. Both knives are incredibly convenient. Both knives are very tough. To recap pros and cons, the Lightning, it's easy to deploy. It's the cheapest. It's definitely tough. There's no question about it. I've had plenty of examples. It's also got a longer cutting edge. And you have the option for a blade on both sides, that's a big deal. That's going to win it for some people right there, because it's like two pocket knives in one. Cons, though, it can fail on the deployment. The lock, I'm not 100% convinced that it would stay in place if you were to do a heavy driving motion into wood. And if that were the case, you run the risk of running your hand up on the blade because there's no real, primary choil on it or guard. It's not going to be easy to maintain. It's going to be easy for something to get inside there and mess up the rail systems. The steel is the 440C. So there's a decent list of cons there. Now on the Kalashnikov, the pros are that it's definitely also tough, probably tougher. It's got a better lock. It's much easier to maintain. It's definitely not likely to fail, or not nearly as likely to fail in terms of the lock or deployment as the Lightning. It's got a better steel, AUS-8, and you have an even better steel as an option, cts-xhp. It's nice to have that little safety switch, and you definitely don't, in terms of safety, you definitely don't have nearly the same risk of running your finger up on that blade during use. The only cons that I can think of, it can be, you have to put a little bit more effort into closing it with one hand if you're in that up on a ladder scenario and one of your hands is busy, and it's got a shorter blade length. That's pretty much it. Everything else I can't really think of any other cons there. So truthfully, my conclusion is that probably the better of the two is the Boker Kalashnikov. The fact that this one in my hands is 13 years old and still going, I know maybe the Lightning could also last for 13 years, but I've got an actual example of this one. And just going through and listing, pros and cons, at least in my opinion, of each, it really seems like, not by a massive long shot, but by a pretty good margin, I think the Boker Kalashnikov is probably the better option. So it's worth paying a couple extra bucks and getting yourself a Kalashnikov. I do recommend both of these knives. Let's be clear. If you really do like the idea of having a nice utilitarian automatic knife that's got a double edge, that's the way to go. If you're going to get a Lightning, honestly, I would go with a double-edged one. It just makes sense. But if that is not the most important thing to you and you're really looking to maximize longevity and resilience in a budget automatic knife, and you're going to use it and work with it for, you're going to really beat on it, honestly, I think the Boker Kalashnikov is just the way to go. I think it's just a better design. And obviously I think it's massively dependable. As always, the best choice, if you can do it, if you can support this decision financially, just get them both. I'm going to repurchase both of these knives because I like the idea of having both of them around. But if you have to just pick one, my vote is the Boker Kalashnikov. That's pretty much it for today's battle, guys. I hope you, at the very least, found this entertaining. Maybe you got something out of it. That would be great. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. And if you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So please check that stuff out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there is definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.